lasting impact. And today I have my special guest. He is the founder and CEO of Dream Lab, helping mid-career professional women transition from unfulfilling jobs to purpose-driven businesses. None other than Mr. Mike Hunt.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Welcome back to one of my podcasts, Mr. Mike. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yeah, look, thanks, Daniel, and thanks for having me. About 15 years ago, I worked in ICT and I ran a team of engineers and we're looking after some complex technical solutions. But it was a 24-hour job. I worked got calls in the middle of the night and it all got a little bit crazy. And around that time, my father, he was a local chemist, and he actually, that was his social life. That was his only life, working in this chemist. And he retired, and he actually died within 5 years after that, just from loneliness and boredom. He didn't have a life. And so what I did is I actually left the corporate world and moved into helping others and myself following dreams through entrepreneurship. And that's how Dream Lab was born.
And thank you so much for sharing your Dream Lab to the world, Mr. Mike. Thank you for empowering women all over the world. Your work focuses on helping purpose-driven entrepreneurs turn their passion into profit. The Dream Lab concept seems specifically designed for women transitioning from unfulfilling job to businesses that actually matter to them. What inspired you to focus on this particular transition, and why women?
Now, that's a good question. And the reason being is my particular passion is I believe there's there's a lot of talent, skills, and real energy and passion underutilized in the corporate world, particularly for women. I've been doing this for over a decade now, and what I've found is, as a general rule, and this is nothing against guys, but as a general rule, women have this real sense of community and a real sense of giving back and really making a difference in the world. And so my passion is really to do this work to make a positive impact in the world. And what I find is, and it's completely fine, is guys tend to be a little bit, as a general rule, tend to be a little bit more money focused, whereas women tend to be a bit more positive impact, giving back to community and making a positive difference. Obviously, guys can do that as well, but women tend to have this real built-in drive to really make a difference. So that's why I really focus on trying to transition that energy, that real skills, experience, and energy of women into purpose-driven businesses.
You work with hundreds of mission-focused entrepreneurs, Mr. Mike. When a woman walks into your Dream Lab feeling stuck in a job that drains her, what is the first thing you help her see about herself that she's probably been blind to?
What I help them to see is that they have these skills, these experiences. I think often we all get into our life, we get into a rut. We're just working for a boss, and we build all these skills, but we don't often know that we're using them. We're not aware of all these skills, all these experiences that we have. And so my first thing is to remind them the power that they've got, the skills, the experiences, and how good they actually are, because it's all too easy for us to forget what we have inside, isn't it?
Interesting, Mr. Mike. You talk about nagging voice that questions whether you're a man to make money while making a difference. How do you
Yeah.
help women quiet the voice and step into the belief that their passion can indeed be profitable?
Well, that's a great question again, and what it really is to really start to find some clarity about what they want to do and how they want to help, and it's really identifying that passion, because sometimes it's been suppressed for so long that it's kind of new to them to actually explore this thing. And we have this, we all have this fear that, oh, this is going to be scary, this is going to be, does anyone want it? And there's all these questions about if it's going to be profitable, and how we go about that. So it's really about finding clarity. It's really about finding some sort of, well, the whole idea of Dream Lab is the laboratory side of it is to test. So rather than saying, look, you've got to leave your day job straight away and go and do this thing, and it's all or nothing, burn the bridges, we take a different approach, and we say, well, why don't you just test one thing and give it a go and start to experiment, because they can do that while they're still at their jobs. And what we find is once these women start to actually put their toe in the water, so to speak, and start to try out these ideas and test these ideas and talk to people, they start to blossom, because they start to realize that there's actually people in the world who want what they have to give.
Certainly, Mr. Mike, you argue that the path of profitability is not about working harder or sacrificing values. It's about strategic simplification. For a woman who has been told her whole life that she needs to be done more, be more, prove more, or what does simplification actually look like in practice?
Well, that's very true. And we are conditioned to think that this is the right life to lead. This is the safe life to be in the corporate world, to be working for the boss, and we get remunerated. But what we realize is it's actually not as safe as we think, because of retrenchments, especially with the AI and the different technologies that happen in. And so once we accept that this is a more fluid situation, and once I can talk to women and let them realize that it's actually possible that by following their passion and following their dreams, they can actually get something out of it. And that's why we do the tests, because once they start playing with this idea and toying with the idea and really in exploring what is possible, that we find that there's a lot of opportunities and possibilities come to them that they didn't realize were possible. Because a lot of these women actually have great networks, they have skills, they have experiences, and there's a lot to draw on that they may not originally think that they have. And so once they can start to identify those, the confidence really builds up.
Confidence indeed. You identified the biggest mistake purpose driven entrepreneurs make, trying to serve everyone. Why is that just help everyone impulse so strong in women specifically or especially? And how do you help them narrow their focus without feeling like they're abandoning people who need them?
Well, that's another good question, and it's really the heart of what we do, because I've been doing this for over 10 years, and I would say almost everyone I've ever sat down with, I've said to them, I said, what do you want to do? And they say, I can do everything. I can help everybody. Like, you would not believe how many times I've heard that exact same phrase. And and I can see it, because they think, oh, I could help so many people. I can make so much difference. And that's why the Dream Lab framework specifically focuses on their ideal client. Because when I say, well, who's the person you most should help? Who's the person who needs you the most? Who's the person you can make the most difference with? They actually, it sometimes takes weeks for, and even longer sometimes, for them to really think deeply about what that is. And it is that letting go. So I always say, don't worry, it doesn't mean you can't help others down the track. But in the beginning, it's a matter of identifying who we're really trying to help. And often that becomes the only person that they want to help, because if they can really make a difference into a smaller cohort, it's much better than spreading themselves way too thin. And it makes a real difference in the people they're talking to, because the people who are talking to can really understand their passion and their drive and what they're trying to do and how they're trying to help them, rather than trying to just go to the masses.
You say that when a message is crafted for everyone, it truly resonates with no one. How do you help a woman who's spent her career being a generalist? adaptable, flexible, and utility player. Learn to specialize in a way that actually feels authentic, Mr. Mike.
Well, yeah, that's true because it's really the core of DreamLab, and this is why we do the experimentation because it does go against everything that they believe in because they've been told, they've been conditioned to be generalists. They're trying to help everyone, they're trying to do everything. Like you think of a typical woman, especially a little bit older, maybe in their 50s, they're looking after their children, they're looking after their parents, they're looking after their friends and their families and their partners, and they're always looking after everyone and they're multitasking. You know, we always joke that guys aren't so good at multitasking and women are so good at multitasking. And what happens is they have this multitasking mindset. So when they go into business and entrepreneurship, uh, they they are thinking in that mindset, that really spreading around, helping everyone, because that's what they've always done, and they've done it in their work as well. So there's their work and their family, and they're doing so much. For them to actually streamline and just think of one group of people, one group of clients, it is quite struggling for them, and it's probably the biggest challenge we have in DreamLab is to get people to think about just that smaller group of. I went through the same thing with targeting women, and I've had people, even really good marketers, say, well, if you're targeting women, you're losing half of your clients. Possibility is half of your clients. So you get people coming with different ideas, and it's very hard to streamline. Uh, but once you get streamlined and once you get focused in that group, it's amazing that empowerment you can actually feel, and how good you feel about it, because you can be really clear about those people, and you can talk directly to those people. But it does take a bit of time for people to get their head around it. It sounds simple, but it's hard in practice.
You challenge entrepreneurs to step into their ideal client's world, Mr. Mike, not just demographically, but psychologically, emotionally, and experientially. You give an example of a divorced single mother whose morning unfolds under specific pressure. Walk us through that exercise, and how do you help women truly embody the experience of someone she wants to serve?
Well, the when we're serving a specific client, now obviously I'm tailoring to women normally around in their 50s, a little bit older women with a lot of experience. And so for me to talk to those women, I need to understand them. So it's a matter of being a part of that world, even if that ideal client isn't your same demographic. So, but there's so much out there on social media and on the internet, and you can read and you can study and you can learn about these your ideal client. And the more and talk to them. I mean, I think the best way is to talk to them. So I run these programs, and I'm sitting there with women. So I have a session tomorrow where we'll be sitting. There will probably be 8 of them there, and we sit around and we're talking. And because I'm really in the trenches with them, and I'm hearing their stories, and I'm hearing their struggles, and I'm hearing their dreams and their aspirations, I feel like the more time I spend with them, the more I understand them. And that's what I encourage any of your entrepreneurs, any of your listeners to do. If they got this ideal client, rather than thinking, how do I market to these people? How do I sell to these people? Just get amongst them, and really talk to them, interview them, spend time with them, and really get into their world and spend time with them. And then you start to really understand it, because people really do come out when you're taking the time to walk in their shoes.
Definitely, yeah, Mr. Mike. You ask powerful questions. What keeps your ideal client awake at night? What frustration does face that no one else seems to understand? What does she go for solutions? For a woman starting her business, how does she find the answers to these questions without making assumptions?
Yeah, so it's a good question because what happens is you talk about laying awake at night, and it's very hard to get very complex. Hence the reason why we really push simplicity. Because when you think about starting a business, all your entrepreneurs, all your listeners will know that they've got a very, very long to-do list, and there's a lot going on in their minds. It's hard. There's challenges. It's difficult, and uh, and so to try to solve these problems, it's really a matter of trying to accept that some of them won't be resolved straight away. Some of these problems will have to just sit there and they'll have to be parked. We park some of the problems and really thinking about what's the most important thing and really focusing on that. Because once we're focusing on just the one thing, we and really get clarity about what you're trying to achieve in that specific moment. Because as I say, entrepreneurs have so much to think about, and it can be very, very overwhelming. You get anxiety, and it can really affect you, and it's hard for the motivation. So when we try to find clarity about the one particular thing, the thing that's most important to them, but also most important to their client, and really focusing on that one thing, finding a solution, reaching out for help, being part of a community, which is why Dream Lab is a community, and we encourage people to be part of the community. Because we find when these women sit around talking amongst each other, sharing their anxieties, sharing their fears, sharing their what's up with them, where they're at, they're amazing. And this is what I love working with this cohort, is they're so good at helping each other and making suggestions and saying, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Or sharing their experiences. And they find that they actually, by listening to others who are going through their struggles and talk, and being asked questions, they actually start to find the answers, sometimes on their own and sometimes that come from other people.
Very well said, Mr. Mike. You emphasize that this deep understanding transform everything from messaging to offerings to delivery methods. Can you share a story of a Dream Lab participant who transformed her business by finally understanding her ideal client?
Yeah, so I have a client at the moment who's in DreamLab, and she's still developing, but she loves cooking, right? But then with her cooking, what she's really trying to do, when she first came, she said sounded like she wanted to run a cooking school and teach cooking. And then but but what was really inside is what she realized is people lost the joy, the fun, the enthusiasm of being in the kitchen. So it went sort of from, oh, I want to teach people how to cook. Then it went to, oh, I want to get people to do bulk cooking and do bulk cooking. So then during the week they can just pull something out of the fridge and just do that sort of thing. So she jumped around all different things, from creating high teas to creating meals. She's been helping with, the Salvation Army. She's been teaching people to cook and doing all this sort of stuff. But really, what she's really focusing on now is that real the joy, rediscovering the joy of cooking. Because what she finds is, as she starts to get people to be interested in the kitchen as well, they don't necessarily need the 4 ingredient quick cook in half an hour, because they've re-engaged with the cooking. So it's just a small example how it's taken her quite a long time trying all different things, which she's still working through, but she's really finding this clarity about helping people finding joy in the kitchen. I think that that's really important, because it's helping others who are in her world to eat well, and it's great for their mental health. Because rather than seeing cooking as being a chore, they're starting to see it as something that they enjoy, and that makes a real positive impact, I feel.
Indeed. So, Mr. Mike, many women come to you from corporate jobs or unfulfilling careers. What is the hardest part of the transition, leaving the paycheck, the identity, the security, and how do you help them navigate that fear?
Well, you've nailed it. put the nail on the head right there, because it is a lot to do with the identity. Most people will talk about the paycheck, of course, and then that's why we test business ideas. That's why we get business up and running before we give away the paycheck. And there's so many ways. The transition is quite a big part of the whole process. But to overcome the fear, well, one of the biggest problems is the corporate mindset is different, as you know. Talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, it's a different mindset than the corporate world. So when someone with a corporate mindset wants to go into business and they're taking the corporate mindset, it doesn't work very well, because they're used to having all the different support systems within the corporate world. They're thinking of that, they think from a different perspective, like than the entrepreneurs, the people you have on the show. Because once you're an entrepreneur, you're the one who's organizing everything. You have to think about everything. You have to do everything, and then you have to start to build up your team. And I think as they understand that they can use others, they can find support, they can get people in their world who will come on their journey with them, people within the Dreamlab community, people out into their own communities. As they start to find this support, they can start not operating like they're in the corporate world, but they can start to relate to that. But again, this is why we like to test their ideas while they're still working, and let them understand that it's not a switch. Often in the corporate world, people think, right, I've got to work 9 to 5, 5 days a week and 50 hours a week, and then change to entrepreneurship. But you can actually, it's amazing how many people can go to their boss and say, look, I only want to work 4 hours, 4 days, or maybe I need a day off, I'll work a bit longer each day. Or there's so many different ways, or go as a contractor. There's so many ways to transition. And the more they get their head around this, that there is a transition to do, not just a giant leap, then they grow the confidence, and they start to test with that time that they have, that they're freed up. They start to test, they start to make money, they start to build up their clients, they start to get their followers and their community on their social networks and in person. And it really gives them that real confidence. And it's great to see when that happens, because they get so inspired, because finally they realize they can follow that dream and they can live their passion and have a fulfilling, meaningful life.
Mr. Mike, if you could paint a picture of what a woman's life looks like in 6 months, offering completing Dream Lab, and after she transitioned from unfulfilling job to purpose-driven business, what does her typically Tuesday look like, and how does she feel when she wakes up?
Well, this is the beautiful thing, and this is what's so fulfilling about my job, because when you talk to women who have been through the program, and I've been working with either in groups or one-on-one, they're so motivated and so fired up, and they're like a different person. In fact, a lot of people will say that their friends say how good they're looking and how happy they're looking, because it's hard to realize when you're in the corporate world, but often people are a little bit down, they're unfulfilled, they're not really alive and bubbly. And once they start following their dreams, once they start living their passion, living their purpose, and they're living this fulfilling life, they're actually jumping out of bed. They're actually excited. And as much as a lot of people say, I'd like to work myself so I got more freedom and I can do more things, I find people actually want to work more. And sometimes that you have to pull back a bit, because they're so excited about what they're doing, because they're really helping the people that they want to help, and they're doing what they love doing. So it's a real, you can actually see it in people's face. And as I say, their friends will comment about how good they look, because they're so alive, they're so excited. And it's definitely a different look when you're living your dream.
Definitely living with your dream. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, Mr. Mike, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in 6th season, abstract poetry in 6th season, and my book 101 review in 6th season too, comedy 101 in 4th season, and my food 101 in 6th season as well, geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 are in Fifth season, Science 101, Sex 101, and fourth season, Baby Podcast, Review 101, Motivation 101, Spiritual Awakening 101, Entrepreneurship 101, Law 101, Motivation 101, Coaching 101, and of course, My Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. So, Mr. Mike, if your work is about helping women build businesses that allows them to continue their mission for years to come, if you could whisper one sentence into the ear of every woman listening right now who is miserable in her job, dreaming of something more, but too terrified to take the leap, what would you want her to hear?
I would just say decide. Making the decision is what it's all about. It's all about deciding not to jump, not to leave your job, but to deciding just to explore what might be possible. I think that's the most important thing.
Yes, people explore the possibility. Why not? Who knows? You will be the next successful, well, who? The next Mongol, Jeff Bezos, or Steve Jobs, or what else? The late Steve Jobs, or who else? Elon Musk. Why not, right, Mr. Mike? So can you please invite the listeners to support your dream love, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Well, if someone's sitting here listening thinking I maybe could explore this, I could do something about this, I encourage them to go to my website, yourdreamlab.org, and do the quiz. And there's a simple quiz, and it gives you some insights and some ideas, and it might just trigger something that maybe, just maybe, you will decide that it's something that you could at least explore.
Yes, to explore. And Mr. Mike, we salute you for doing this. You're empowering women all over the world. It's something else. Thank you for your advocacy, and we salute you again for doing that.
Thank you, and thank you for all you do and all the effort you put in to take these podcasts, take these ideas to the world. It's fantastic what you've been doing, and I really appreciate it.
Likewise, I'm inviting you to please do come over on Motivation 101. Let's motivate women all over the world to be a business woman.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you're most welcome, Mr. Mike. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Monica people, see you soon.